Jeez, why is this so close? I don't even know how do you do the edit? How do you do the filters and stuff? Okay, well, anyway, you guys, I just want to talk about regeneration real quick. And, you know, what's going on with the food right now, like, this is not the first time I've spoke about, you know, the chakra system and how, and yes, don't even worry about it. But this isn't the first time I've talked about the chakra system and the foods that we eat that that open up and cleanse and detox and brighten those centers. And this isn't the first time that I've ever spoke on how we were tricked out of eating natural when veganism came into play. This isn't the first time. Previously, before I actually created this page, this particular page, before I closed down my other one due to spiritual attacks, etc., on different you know, events that I was hosting. And hi everybody, yeah, it's been a minute, but this is the first time I've spoke on, like I said, veganism and eating natural when they tricked us. They tricked us into veganism. Veganism isn't even a thing, but they tricked us into plant-based burgers and impossible burgers and all of that stuff when, like I said before, I've taught, you know, on YouTube years ago. Thank you. I look really rough right now. I stay in hiding. But they tricked us out of going back to the herbs and back to eating strictly from the planet when they tricked us into the impossible burgers and all of that stuff. And, you know, so that we still desire the same taste and could get the same kind of tasty and desired results that our taste buds were used to without going backwards and depending back, you know, on ourselves and on a natural way of living. They tricked our minds, tricked most people's system into going back to those foods just to lead us back to fake foods, which is, you know, the 3D printed meat, the plastic lettuce, the plastic cabbage, all of that stuff, GMO foods, everything that they've modified. So they really hook most 99% of the American people in with so-called impossible burgers and plant-based foods, fast foods and all of that stuff. So right now I just felt the need to come on and, you know, I don't have my filters. I don't have any of that. I've been mommying a newborn. I've been homeschooling. I've been scouting land. I've been, you know, studying, you know, assets and trusts and, you know, just everything that needs to be studied in order to bring, in order to fulfill my, my sovereignhood, and birthright to have ownership and, freedom on this planet in this time. So I just wanted to come on here real quick and just speak about immortality and regeneration. I just made a post like about 2 minutes ago. Go like if you so desire. But I just want to talk about regeneration and what I'm dealing with and what I'm practicing right now. And I'm really deep into my studies, which is why I'm not on social media a lot. I'm gonna start going live a lot more. But again, I just had a newborn, so she's 9 months now. So I have my energy up, everything is coming back, all of that stuff. But I wanted to talk about regeneration just real quick, not, you know, go long about it. But what I'm doing, you know, we have to work on, and, you know, I know some people don't want to, they don't want to live long. They don't want to live forever. You know, I mean, I want to live as long as youthful and as long as my body and my organs and my skin and my lungs and all of that stuff, which is organs, will allow me to live here on this planet and experience the transition and the changes and the metamorphosis that we go through, or that we will go through, and that people will go through, and that the times will go through on this planet. I want to experience that. I'm not worried about getting old. You know, I've been looking the same way for about 30 years now. Well, I'm not that old, but I've been looking this way for at least 20 years now, for at least 18 years. When I got into my mature phase, and, you know, my final form was my final form, I've been looking this way since. So my idea is to, you know, right now, first I'm working on regenerating the biggest organ on the body, which is the skin. So feeding the outer organ, as well as me feeding my inner organs, is just as important to me, for rejuvenating, for rebuilding cells, white blood cells, red blood cells, whatever healthy bacteria needs to be, elasticity, you know, when it comes to collagen peptides, and when it comes to lemon and coffee and milk and honey and all of that stuff on your skin. I just want to remind you guys that, you know, if you want to live it, you know, I'm sure that, you know, according to the Western time clock and the Western calendar, the Gregorian calendar, you know, everybody has a time limit. Everybody has a window, if you will, to live, if you subject yourself to that system. But if you submit and subject yourself to your inner system, into the system that we are designed to live by, will have you living immortal. It will have you regenerating, regrowing bones, regrowing cells, regrowing hair, regrowing teeth. There are plenty of animals out there that are able to do it. Humans are able to do it. And, you know, I always preach that, you know, organs in this day live longer than the actual person who has supplied the organ in death, has supplied the organ to other people who need the organs. And the organ lives inside of the donated organ lives inside of the person for over 20 years, over 30 years. If that person dies and that's a healthy organ, that organ can then be donated after 30 years of living to another person. So that's just proof right there that we are able to regenerate, that we are able to live longer than they have given us. And obviously it is a fact that they are, you know, killing us through the food, through the water. They are poisoning our system through those things, through the air, the food, the water, through the things that we see, through the towers, and all the radiation, you know, that comes off of the computers in every home, every office, every bedroom, every apartment complex, every house, you know. So everything around us is definitely degenerating our system. But, you know, if we lay off the alcohol, if we lay off the smoke, if we feed the biggest organs on our bodies, which is our skin, you know, those things that helps in tightening the skin, closing the pores, pulling out the toxicities in our skin, in our pores, that, you know, in baths for women, the things that pull out parasites out of our vaginas, the vinegar that tightens us up and gives us and brings us back that youthfulness. It's just really time that we get back into those things to regenerate ourselves, to regrow ourselves, because it's really possible. And I just wanted to put this this message out there, you know, regeneration equals immortality, because it truly, truly does. And I know that a lot of people are fearful of living until they're 90, until they're 100. But if you live until you're 90 and until you're 100 and you look like me, or you look like yourself at this point right now, I'm sure you wouldn't have a problem with doing that. So I just challenge you all to take care of the biggest organ on your body, which is the skin. Okay, feed your skin lemon juice, coffee, milk, honey, eggs. The same things that we put into our bodies regenerate the outside of our bodies as well. I wash my hair with coffee, which balances the pH, you know, in women. If you have a flaky, dry scalp, if your hair is shedding, if you losing your goddamn edges, Coffee. Coffee will handle that. So I just, challenge you. I challenge you guys to focus on your bodies, to focus on regenerating and becoming stronger. And not trying to do everything at one time. Like, it took me 8 years to completely become a breatharian. And I talked about this on here before, like maybe about 4 years ago, but it took me 8 years to become a breatharian. If you don't know what a breatharian is someone who gets their nutrients from air. Now, granted, in the United States, that's not really healthy. I almost died, okay? I almost died. Because the polluted air, there's no nutrients in polluted air. There's no nutrients where there's hella cars, where there's, warehouses and things like that, and towers and all of that stuff. I lost so much weight, but I gained so many spiritual gifts in the process of dying to live. And it was crazy. But, in the first year, I gave up pork. Second year, I gave up beef. Third year, I gave up chicken. Fourth year, I gave up fish. Fifth year, I gave up processed, not processed, but what is it called when they preserved foods, like preserved breads. I was really down to eating freaking strawberries, and then even that became too much for me. And the awakening that I was having was having me not eating anything. So, it came to a point where I was just surviving on water and air. And I was surviving, but in this climate, in some place like Iceland, where there's nothing but greenery, there's nothing but, water and landscape and, pure oxygen, one could survive in a place like that. So, I know that it's hard to do, and, to get off of those things, and, you don't have to focus on everything, but if you eliminate, one thing at a time, and have a focus on what you want to make healthier and better, and what you want to regenerate of yourself, that is very much possible. Okay? That's very much possible. So right now, I'm focusing on my skin, focusing on no alcohol unless I am communing with the ancestors, which I am right now, because I'm on my rum. I'm like, okay, I need to tap in with my ancestors, and little do most people know, they love to drink, okay? And they love to eat some tomatoes, some okra, some sweet potatoes. So go on and sit that out for them. Sit some water, sit some rum. And, to be honest, I'm a teacher of altar work. So, in this time, and, people like, what about the Orishas? I get a lot of inquiries to consult people on altar work and stuff like that. But honestly, that stuff is really not needed. I mean, when it comes to the Orishas, most people don't know. But the Orishas is dead, okay? That energy is dead. And, just to give you some quick insight real quick, the Orishas, when it comes to the colors, the science of the colors for the Orishas, the red, the green, the blue, the white, the purple, the yellow, those are just symbols of our chakra system. I'm so tired of people asking about the Orishas. Not tired like that, but I'm just like, you got to get this. You got to get this information. You know what I'm saying? You got to get it. You got to understand, like, when people that are outside of your culture start calling on deities deities which are ancient energies, that's all that means. It's not people. At some point, they were, I'm not going to say people, because people always equal the physical. But when other cultures start calling on deities that have no connection to culture, you got to know at that point that energy is dead. Because, people be like, what about the Orishas? Have you worked with Shango? I'm like, man, we are Shango. We are Oshun. We are Yemenia. We are Obatala. Okay? But if you start to immortalize, at this point in time, when you start to wake them up now in 2025, they're asking for blood. It was at a point where they were just asking for yam. They were asking for water. They were asking for rum. They were asking for railroad metal. You know, when it comes to Shango, they were asking for the things that they require and the things that represent them. Now it's nothing but blood, because they've been plagiarized. They've been tampered with. They've been watered down. So, you know, it's enough bloodshed going on in the world. So, you know, when it comes to deities asking for blood sacrifices, chickens, you know, animals, even people, your own blood, they don't give a damn. Like, you know, it's not good to mess with stuff like that. Just leave that alone. You'll do better with putting some damn, you know, salt and vinegar and bleach and water in your bath, or, you know, and working your energy over that element to get your soul's desire, versus going to the orishas and stuff like that. I don't know how I really got to that, but I just wanted to let you guys know, like, you know, altar work is cool. You know, you want to commune with your ancestors. And if you do altar work, then you want to do things like, you know, you want to work with people who are like your grandmother, your great-grandmother, your great-greats. Me personally, I'm past that phase. I'm literally, you know, working with snake gods and the creator of ants and ancient civilizations within insects and reptilians and stuff like that. So, you know, I can share and shed light, you know, on how to get to that stage. But, you know, just a simple altar work does not work for me, because I am the walking altar. I've gotten to a stage and to a place where I understand that all of that energy is within, and I pull it without, and I manifest and I materialize from within without. So I don't necessarily deal with that stuff unless I just choose to. But this video is ultimately about challenging you all to regenerate your body, to not fall for the systematic dying culture of death. You know, in Africa, they say, you know, there's always tomorrow. We have life to live. You know, it's all about life. I don't know where they are right now in those ancient texts and those ancient phrases and sayings, because they've been colonized as well by the French, by the Chinese. You know, it's really bad. But in the Western world, you know, you have to live for today, because you might not wake up tomorrow. You know, it's just a real death culture. So I just challenge you guys to undo and re-educate yourselves with the ideas of immortality and regeneration and life. And don't think about death. Don't worry about death. You know, prepare for living. And, you know, really start working on regenerating your cells, regenerating your skin, regenerating the elasticity in your skin, regenerating your bones, looking into herbs and real medicines that do those things for you in order for you to regenerate, because it's really possible. So, you know, I want you guys to live. I'm going to live for a long time. You know, I keep seeing the number 94 for me, but even longer than that. You know, I'm like, you know, most people are like, I don't know. You know, I've had conversations with people lately and they're like, I don't know if I want to live, you know, that long. I don't want to be old. I'm like, man, I'm about to be hopping from property to property, from land to land, you know, on shrooms, on shrooms, smoking, you know, whatever herb I want to smoke in the backyard, tending to my garden, having having parties in the neighborhood, you know, all that stuff at 90 years old, at 80 years old. So, you know, I'm just challenging you guys to really take care of yourselves and to, you know, lay off of the food that's being provided us in retail. Like, you know, really, really depend at this time, you know, on herbs, on plants, on fruits. There's so many farms around the world as far as the United States. There's so many farms in different states and different counties that have their own poultry for sale, that have their own meat for sale, their own fruit, you know, stuff like that. So if you want to do those things, you know, eat naturally. And And that's it. You know what I'm saying? I just, normally I don't jump on here like this, but I just felt the need to do so because I'm just really excited about the process I'm going through. And I know this video hasn't really captured my youthfulness and, where my health is right now. It's not giving me the best visual, but when I tell you, I am regenerating like crazy when it comes to my skin, when it comes to my eyes whitening from going from dim and dull and stressed and tired, especially after just having a baby, to bright, to shining, to glistening again, to, lightening up, my skin and waking up the scales, that's funny, waking up the cells, in my body. Just waking up my brain and taking in new information, cutting out the cell phone. I literally throw my phone across the room. If I'm not on there for business, if I'm not checking an email, if I'm not applying for something, then, I'm not really on my cell phone. So we have to get away from these things that are killing us. And, like I said, I just challenge you guys to regenerate yourselves. Focusing, on how to, regenerate one thing at a time. You have nothing but time. If you want to work on your skin, tightening your skin, regenerating, your muscles, regenerating one organ at a time. Look into herbs that will clear your lungs, like mullein, that will clear your lungs and strengthening your lungs and rebuild, the vessels and all of that stuff. They distract us so much through everything that people don't think that they have time to do those things. If you have time to tie your shoe, if you have time to go to the grocery store, if you have time to get on here and fucking post something, you have time to regenerate your body. So challenging you guys to focus on one organ at a time. How to regenerate, your kidney, your liver, like herbs that rebuild cells in your liver, herbs that detox the liver. Work on one thing at a time and slowly rebuild your body, just like someone would slowly rebuild a house or build a house. You are the house. You are the temple. You have to work on the plumbing. You have to work on the pipes. You have to work on the structure. You have to work on, the filter. You have to rebuild those things. I mean, you don't have to, but I'm challenging you all to do so. If you want to live longer, you want to live stronger, and you'd like to experiment in immortality, I'm challenging you guys to do that because I have a feeling that I'm going to live forever until I choose to go. So I'd like to see you there. I'll talk to y'all later. Peace.